So here we are in the garden. This is one of many gardens actually, and I started this garden earlier in the spring. It's kind of funny. I came to this spot, and there's a stump. It's kind of behind me. You might not be able to see it. There's a stump, and I was digging around the soil here because I was trying to plant an iris. And I had just discovered that the soil around stumps are really easy to dig and they're really nice quality fluffy soil. So I had planned to come and plant an iris. But as I was digging, I started to realize, wow, this area has really good soil, not just around the stump, but the whole general section here. So I just kept digging to pull out all the grass and clear this space, this circle garden around me. And basically I was thinking about space for my flowers, but also thinking ahead about deer, because we have a lot of deers here and they'll eat everything. So for me this was a little bit of an experiment, because I thought, well, I know some plants that deers don't like, or I think I know what they are, but who knows, when they're hungry they'll eat anything. So I'm pretty happy and surprised that a lot of these flowers are still here, because this is totally unfenced. Normally we have to fence our garden to keep the deers from eating everything we have. So this has been a fun and wonderful experiment. One, in cultivating soil around the stump, and two, to experiment with flowers that can grow without fencing, which is really fun for me because I really want to see flowers growing everywhere. So the more flowers that deers don't eat, then that means more flowers I can plant. Okay, so around me are these gorgeous flowers. And as you can see, it's actually a pretty small space. It's not a huge amount of space. And yet this area will produce so much flowers, even more than I might be able to use in one season. So it's really possible to do in a very limited space. You don't have to have huge acreage to grow your own flower garden. And I want to start by pointing out, we're going to go from my left to right, and I'll be pointing out each different flower, what they look like growing fresh, and then what they look like dried, so you can kind of see the comparison. So starting here, this is a poppy, and it's just forming its seed heads. Yeah, so this is at the seed form, meaning that the petals have already fallen apart, and what's left here is the seed pod. And it's still green, so at this point I wouldn't harvest it quite yet, because they might get a little bit bigger than that. And then I'm going to show you, this is the seed pod once dried and completely finished. So the color fades quite a bit, and this is totally natural. I didn't bleach it, I didn't leave it in the sun. This was just hung dried indoors, and it just fades to this color by itself. Yeah, so we have really long, beautiful stems here. So really, I could cut, all the way down to the ground, or I can just cut whatever length of stem I want from these gorgeous poppy pods. And what I normally do each year is I'll harvest some to dry for making wreaths, but I will also save at least one or two and keep the seeds for planting the following season. So I'm replenishing my supply every year and having more seeds and more plants to grow. Each of these pods have thousands of seeds, so it really goes a long way. So that's something to keep in mind as you garden. Save your seeds, because you can then have those plants over and over again every year. So that's really fun. Right next to the poppies, these are bachelor buttons. And as a reminder, it's these flowers that I had shown earlier. This color is the deep red, which is this one right here. Yeah, so this is the mix that we're seeing. There's a mix of purples and burgundy, and that's how they dry. Bachelor buttons are really easy to grow. They actually grow wild here as well. I see them along the side of the road all the time, and I would get really tempted to go and wild harvest them. But I find it more fun to grow my own plants, so here they are growing in our garden. I'm hoping that this is my first year growing them here at this garden, since we've only been in this property for 1 year. I'm hoping to, build up a seed stock. So what I'm going to do is, after I dry some of these flowers, I will save their seeds, and then I will probably broadcast them throughout the property so that they'll just volunteer and come back by themselves wherever they want to grow. Okay, and we're going to go down a little low here. Next to my feet, these are called nigella. Here, you can see some of the flowers, and here's the seed pods. It's also called love in a mist. Okay. And for comparison, here is the dried plant, the dried seed pod. So fresh and dried, right next to each other. Yeah. This is also an easy plant to grow that likes to volunteer and come back. So even though this plant isn't, poppy just fell. Even though this plant is an annual plant, not a perennial, meaning that it will flower and go to seed in one season, and then it will die and end its life cycle. So you have to plant it again and again if you want more of it in your garden. But some plants tend to basically reseed themselves very easily, and this is one of those plants. I found that poppies, nigella, and bachelor buttons, the three that I've just shown you and mentioned, they're all very easy to grow plants, great for beginners, and they will come back in your garden every year. Okay, and I just have to show off this awesome poppy. This is called, the variety is called Shirley poppy, but its name is Amazing Gray. And this is my first time growing it, and I'm just completely in love with it because the color is so amazing, hence Amazing Gray. But aside from the beautiful flower, you get these cute little seed pods. You can see the seed pods there and there. Isn't that darling? Yeah, so thank you, Amazing Gray. You're a really beautiful plant. Okay, behind those poppies are agrostemma. Oh my goodness, this plant is just so beautiful. I mean, look at them, right? It's the kind of flower that, as you can see, likes to grow in a big mass. And it really makes a statement that way. This is a really kind of, to me, Old English garden type of flower. Its common name is corncockle. And I learned that it's a wildflower that would grow in the fields, and it used to grow very commonly in cornfields. But because of industrial agriculture and the use of chemicals, unfortunately, it's considered a weed, and we don't really grow it much anymore, which is sad because it's a very beautiful flower. One of the things that my mentor at Camp Joy told me is the flower has these stripes, which she calls landing pads for bees. And it's just so cute to think of it that way. Basically, it's attracting bees. It's wanting pollinators to come in and pollinate it. Yeah, so they're just so cheerful, happy plants. They're wonderful and easy to grow. And we have a bunch of these volunteering already all over our land in random corners. It's just fun walking around our property and suddenly see this pop of purple. It is also actually a great dry flower plant. You might not think that, but it does have full seed pods that can be used in dry flower arrangements. Okay, so a little further past these guys over here, this is larkspur. It's not flowering right now. Part of the reason is because this garden that we're standing in is in the shade, or it's partial shade. So even, which I like about it, I like this location because you get really long stems, and that happens when you're in shade. But the other, the con of that, the disadvantage, is it flowers a little bit later. I also want to show the flower to see what it looks like once dried. So this is dried larkspur. It's really beautiful, very delicate. This particular color is called Earl Grey, but usually I actually grow a really bright blue variety that I like. This is a really new, fun color to play with. I know right now a lot of the floral trend is towards neutrals and faded colors, so it's nice to see what's possible with dry flowers in that tone. Okay, so we're gonna go over here around and behind me to, I want to show you another flower called ammobium. Here it is. This is called ammobium, and I really like this flower because it's kind of like a tiny, teeny straw flower, and it has this very star-like characteristic, and also a very long stem. But unlike straw flowers, it only comes in white. It's great dried. It looks exactly like this. So what you see is what you get with this flower. It's great. Okay. So that covers it for this small round garden here, which we call the stump garden because of the stump. And now I would take you into another part of our garden where we actually grow primarily vegetables, but I also have a crop of straw flowers in there. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about straw flowers, one of my all-time favorite dry flowers. And I also want to mention harvest, the time of harvest. Basically with dry flowers, the window in which you harvest the flower and dry them is really important. Most flowers, even as you dry them, they'll open up a little bit more. So you tend to want to grab them while they're still a little bit budded, so they haven't opened up completely yet. Because as they dry, they'll continue to develop. And you don't want them to completely lose all their petals and lose the effect that you were going for. But of course seed pods are different. They're a little easier because they'll stay in that shape for a long time. Yeah, that covers it for this section. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the straw flowers.